Welcome to Gray Overload. I want to talk a little bit about Steam. There's been some good things, some I don't like them things, and some hope that I hope to see out of Steam. Now, I've bought a lot of games with Steam, right? and Valve, one of my favorite games is Half-Life. So I wish that we'd have Half-Life 3. That's a whole nother story. But the one really good thing here is that Valve was removing arbitration from the Steam agreements, so disputes can go forward through court. If you listen to Louis Rossman, does some great work there about arbitration agreements. You can go listen to his rant. I don't need a rant about it. He does a good enough job about why it should be go forward, why they should be actually forward in court rather than arbitration. So I'm very pleased to see that. Now, the other side of it is, though, is that, this has been going around, but we kind of knew this, right? With everything going from, Xbox and Sony trying to push diskless stuff and buying everything online, buying games, not just on Steam, but a lot of places are just licenses to this, which is a great disappointment to me. Steam has updated it, and on their, what was it, their agreement or something. I was reading through it and listening to a few other, lawyers and stuff talk about this, and there's some tech people talk about this. But it's a purchase of a digital product that grants a license to the product on Steam. So you're not actually owning it, and this could, be one of those things where, these licenses get pulled, these licenses get removed from you, even though you've spent the money to play that game. It's only actually playing the game for as long as that license is around. And, here's where, the old disc, right? You had it, and even if they stopped, selling it or whatever else, you still had the disc and you could still, well, some of the DRM stuff prevents that, but you could still play it or try to play it. And so this is, Ubisoft was in hot water about this. I did a video about that too, where Ubisoft ended up in hot water, right, for the crew and what they were doing was shutting down servers. But remember, that was just a license, right? I believe that's in their license agreement. PlayStation, right, had their TV purchases of everyone that purchased TV stuff. That was a license, and they were pulling it, and everyone got, upset about that, right? Because people are spending their hard-earned money on this, and then you're pulling it, and they use this as games or TV, right? These examples here are entertainment, and it's a little escape. It's a fun thing to dive into, and here they're pulling that option for you to be able to go and play it. And if it's a fun game, I don't see the need for these companies to just pull these games. So we're seeing this more and more, and there are different things that are happening, right? Different government laws that are happening um, out there, right? There's a new California law that will mandate that digital stores communicate the limitations of digital purposes properly and explicitly state that they are not buying, or that their buying is not owning. So this is partially probably being pushed by that regulation, but it's also a downside. I've used multiple game libraries or storefronts, right? I've used Epic, I've used Steam was one of the big ones, GOG, and then you have Ubisoft and everything else. But with GOG, you can actually download that exe, and then you can go and reinstall that later on. Let's say if it were to go off the store, or, be shut down. And I actually really would like to see games get to that option. Maybe it is a GOG task that all of a sudden all these old games will have to go through a DDRM process where they pull out the DRMs, where they allow companies to um, or allow like a GOG company, be able to pull these all off, and then unfortunately sell them again because the work there for GOG, right? Unless the company's going to be able to put that off, but be able to download that game and then run it again. I'd really like to see that. However, I don't know how practical these companies are going to be unless the law was going to force them, right? Because a lot of these DRMs, let's say the DRM goes away or not able to be serviced anymore, and all of a sudden, the servers or whatever else also don't want to be serviced or upkept. We're out left in the cold as a gamer that may like to play that game. And there's been much talk about out there of all of a sudden, guess what? We're going to have maybe a lost generation of games because of all the DRM and stuff, where everything kind of gets shut down, and all of a sudden you can no longer play those games anymore because they don't exist and you can't be started up, or it's very difficult. And that to me is a very sad state of affairs. It's a travesty, right? Games that I've grown up with or whatever else. Let's say that they don't play or at some point, or sometimes I can't share them with my kids or grandkids or something like that. And I enjoyed them, but they can't enjoy them. That I think is one of I kind of think of games as artwork, kind of, and so getting rid of that is just the creativity of what these designers and game developers did is a really bad state for just games in general, because people then can't get hooked on these old games that have generations or years or tens of years of just content that you could go back for. Oh, I got into this game back then, that's why I'm still into these games now. um, or people want to get into the game now and want to play the old stuff. That's just destroying all that history is just really a shame. So this is on the digital license front, and just thinking about it, it's one of those things where I don't like it, but I really hope that we get to a point where we can have developers even open source stuff or whatever else, get that software out there so that people can still play and enjoy these games later on, which I hope happens. And then the last thing is Valve is stepping up support for Arch Linux. So Valve is working on some new infrastructure stuff for Arch Linux. This is going to be I think this is a really big deal, trying to get Arch Linux more on the map and more, stable, less time on the developer side of running tests and everything else. Get that pipeline infrastructure all set up. I really like this move by Valve. They're really helping out the Arch community here. And I'm going to have to reload up Arch and try that out. But if they can be able to get this through and start setting this all up, putting more stuff back into Arch, really, as Valve has been going forward with this Linux port of all these games and everything else, and getting Proton there, having that translation layer. Not so much, it's not really an emulation layer, more of a translation layer. There's a slight difference there, but um, they're getting these up and playing games. I think that this could be a real option there, especially if they were to come out with a Steam OS outside of just the Steam Deck. I would be one definitely to try it out. Probably even switch, at least one of my machines, if not most of them, going to this. I know, there's a video out I've just did about Windows, especially with recall and everything else going on. Windows has not been a welcoming OS here for some years. Been had some difficult, side of things. So I'm hoping that a lot of this stuff is able to just, with Steam OS, people a lot, especially gamers, migrate to that. It might be the next step to getting people into at least the Linux ecosystem, and maybe getting Linux a little bit more ironed out for, you know, the mass population, so that we can start moving in that direction to getting an OS that's not, or maybe they'll even force Microsoft to do something better, right? Um, but it's a shame at where Microsoft has gone with the OS, and maybe Steam can put a little pressure on Microsoft here. So, yeah, especially if they release Steam OS, it's not going to be overnight, right? It takes a while for people to grab on and switch OSs, but you never know. We could get to a point where, your games run well and most of the software you need can be on Linux or it's on the web. Do you really need Windows anymore, or can that go to, you know, your system go to Linux, that then you don't have these stupid requirements for hardware that Microsoft likes to throw on you willy-nilly. So with that, let me know your comments below. We had 3 different topics here. and about Steam. But let me know your general thoughts on Steam or and everything else, gaming libraries, where you'd like to see the games go, and if games should be opened up more. I do appreciate everything that you guys do, helping support the channel. Like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. It really does help out the channel. Also, watching none of my videos does as well. Sorry about the in and out. My camera, I think, got reset somehow, and I've been telling it just to focus on me, and it refuses to listen. So I will get that fixed here, hopefully, in the next couple videos, because I need to test it out. But thanks so much for watching, and until next time, God bless.